Today, we're looking at Diamine's Florida Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, as it sounds, Diamine's Florida Blue is a blue ink. And to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a fountain pen Revolution's Himalaya with their flex nib to take my notes for this video. But before we look at the writing samples, let's take a look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately dunk it in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is really interesting because for as great a blue as this is, it's not blue. It's purple on the bottom. We get a little bit of kind of a mint on then as it moves up, and we get turquoise at the top, and I think that is what makes this so beautiful to look at. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it in the water, and basically it looks the same. It didn't travel as far, so everything's a little bit closer, but it basically looks the same. Makes me feel that this has no real hold on that's gonna stop it from being cleaned out of your pens. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. When we look at the highlighter, we see it performs very well. It doesn't blow up all over the place, it doesn't bleed together, it doesn't become blurry. This feels to me like it would be perfectly safe to use in a note-taking situation. Water completely reactivates and pulls up most of it, but it does leave some of that purple down there behind, and it's not a ton. We do see areas of white of the page, which makes me feel that with just a little bit more time, it might be all that's needed to make it go away. Now, with that said, Pen Flush did everything that the water did, and then some. We see plenty of areas with the white of the paper coming through, which makes me say that if water wasn't enough, Pen Flush is definitely enough to get this out of your pen. Bleach, as would be expected, completely obliterates it, removes it from the page, but you should not need to get to bleach to get this from your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Florida Blue has a viscosity of 2.67, which makes it a very normal flowing ink. To find my average dry time, I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. For the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine's Florida Blue has an average dry time of 19 seconds, which is normal. So both the viscosity and the dry time are in normal, and both are on the slightly higher side of normal. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing sample consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub. I use a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at that Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. It's a lovely blue. It's a vibrant blue. It's nice. I'm going to go ahead and like this blue a little bit more because it's named after my state. My state. Okay, extra fine. Noticeably lighter tone. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, some light shading throughout, nice, gentle shading, from the H to the E, from the Q in itself. The U gets darker, the K gets much darker. We see a bit of shading with the extra fine. 13 seconds to dry. Darker tone again on the, see, I had to stop myself on a noticeably, I was having trouble. The medium is a darker tone. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Not with this one. 19 seconds to dry. The extra fine scrubby shows us a little bit of color variation. We do get it up here. The medium scrubby shows us some color variation. I did not get it here. Tomoe River. No bleed. Yes, we get ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade.
let's look at the extra fine, because it has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It shades very nicely on this Tomoe River paper. The has a lot of shading just in the word the. Right off the bat, you want to start reading and you want some shading? The shade all over. Beautiful, quick shade all over. Starts dark, gets light, gets dark again, gets a little lighter, starts getting darker, darker, very dark. Beautiful. Really beautiful. It's a lighter tone than we got with the 1.1. 20 seconds to dry. Noticeably darker tone for the medium. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. I wish I could say there's shade. There's not. 27 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us no shading in the medium, shading in the extra fine. That's exactly what we got up in the writing sample. And the smear test, actually, I think you could recover it. There we go. I think you could recover this. What a wonderfully behaving ink on this paper. Great. Rhodia. No bleed, no ghost. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. None. It's gone. It's beautiful blue, but no shade with the 1.1. Extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It's giving that same beautiful shade, or I said no shade, sheen. It's giving that beautiful shading all the way through this writing. Quick, starts dark, gets light, starts getting darker, super dark on the K. Exactly like we were seeing with the Clairefontaine paper. Fox, starts dark, gets light in the middle, dark on the end. Lazy, starts dark and it works its way lighter. Wonderful, 15 seconds to dry. Medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shading. Just not there. This just does not shade with when you put it down thick. I put it in the FPR Himalaya with their flex nib. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful color. No shading at all, but it's still a beautiful color. I'd probably be willing to go ahead and buy a bottle because I'm a nerd and I live in Florida and it's named Florida. I'm going to stop calling it Florida Blue. It's named Florida. So, you know, I might do that. Your state doesn't have an ink named after it. I went and looked at the yellow paper, yellow rhodia. What happens? Well, the yellow rhodia gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. We weren't expecting that to happen. But what about the shade? So we get this really neat turquoise in some of the writing, but the blue in other parts of the writing. So the 1.1 keeps that blue with hints of turquoise where it would have been lighter, and then the extra fine and the medium become this really nice turquoise. 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, some light shading. Like I said, those lighter areas show the turquoise, and then it goes to the blue. And then it shifts colors. It's not shifting tone, it's shifting colors. It actually becomes this nice turquoise with the extra fine. No feather, spread, halo, sheen, beautiful shading all the way through, just like what we got with the white paper. Dark at the beginning of Q, light into the middle of U, gets darker on the I, super dark on the K. Nice. Over, starts light, gets a little darker on the V, gets a little lighter on the E, super dark on the R. Beautiful, 15 seconds to dry. Medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. And the yellow brought the shade in. It lightened it up, so it lightened up the lighter areas and the darker areas get to stay dark. It's just beautiful. This is really, really nice. I don't see it a lot where when it goes down and it's thick and the yellow paper really gets to adjust the color enough to adjust the tone, the shading like that, and it does it here. It's beautiful. It's shading almost like it's shading up with the extra fine. Over, starts really light, gets dark, gets lighter again, gets super dark. Beautiful. 20 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium are showing color variation, and we get it, and we could definitely recover this if we smeared it while we were writing. So I enjoy this ink so much I'm going and checking it on Original Crown Mill, which sort of let me down because it's got a bunch of little bleed spots that are happening. Ignoring the scrubby, I see spots coming through, not touching the page underneath, not being a problem. I would still send the letter off that had this, just to be aware that if you're using a super wet pen, this might not be the best ink to use on this paper. Other than that, it had no real ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, killed that shade on us, 8 seconds to dry. I'm going to come back to, sometimes it's a nice color. Not because of its name. This is a nice color blue. Medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 13 seconds to dry. Noticeably darker tone than I got with the extra fine. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. And the smear says we could recover it if you were using this to take notes. If this is what you take notes on, I want to know what your life is like. If I smeared, I would still be able to read it, to rewrite. So black and red paper, no bleed, no ghost. The 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Since the whole thing doesn't show up, that's as much as I get to zoom in. No shade, none of it. Extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen. No real shading in here. I see no real shading because it looks like there's spots that might be a little lighter. That could be where maybe my pen's coming off the page a little bit. Regardless, we do see a little bit with the over in the O to V. We do see a little of the lighter at the top of the T, down the T, but that's pretty much it. I'm not really going to call this shading. 10 seconds to dry. Excuse me, 10 seconds to dry. The medium, noticeably darker tone, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It's straightforward, same color all the way through, 14 seconds to dry. The extra fine scrubby shows us a little bit of color variation. Look at that far left to far right and you can see it. The medium shows us none, and that's kind of what we got. We really didn't get color variation up with the extra fine. We're not seeing a ton here. That's how that is. No color variation, no color variation. I believe you could recover this if you smeared it, and that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Florida Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I've chosen Robert Oster's Burgundy because it's a very nice, rich red that isn't going to detract from this blue, but they're going to share the page very nicely. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what are my opinions on Diamine's Florida Blue? First, does your state have an ink named after it? Mine does. And the ink named after my state is beautiful. It's a great blue. It's boring because it gives always the exact same performance. And boring can be beautiful when you know exactly what you're going to get anytime you use an ink, and that's what happens here. Boring is predictable. Like Florida, a great place to live with inks named after it. Thanks for watching.